Hey there, guys. TC Made with TC Gaming. Wanted to bring you a new video. Something I've been working on recently is a little bit with gameplay tags, trying to build something that's similar to the crafting systems that were in Ultima Online and Neverwinter Nights with Ambrosia trade skill system. And I want to use gameplay tags and gameplay abilities and all that kind of stuff to make it pretty modular and efficient for a series I'm going to be working on that's kind of what I'm calling the micro RPG genre, where you're basically going to have a central character that builds up over time and plays different sub modules, kind of like back in the old days of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, you'll have quests that you can go on, and you'll embark from a central town or whatever out to these quests. And each of the quests will take like a couple days to compile to go through. So like you could start on a Friday night, knock it out Friday, Saturday, be done Sunday, and go back to work. You know, something that's not going to drag on for a long time, but they'll just be little mini adventures, multiplayer things like that. But that's coming up. I might do some devlogs related to that, but I just wanted to put this video out for you to show you how I'm using gameplay tags and just some options with it. So I'm going to create a third-person game in here. Gameplay tags is all I'm going to call it. I'm just going to hit create. The reason I want to use gameplay tags is because you can hierarchically organize everything and make it very easy. Plus, gameplay tags can be assigned and removed from your character at runtime without any real major trouble. Easy to increment the values, and should be able to do a lot of things with it. So under plugins real quick, I am going to enable electronic nodes for this, just to make it easier to see where the lines connect on some of these. And we're going to be doing some blueprint scripting, and I kind of hate the way some of the spaghetti stuff looks, so hopefully this will make it easier for everybody to follow along. First thing I want to do in here is I'm going to go and create on my content folder. I'm going to right click, say new folder, and I'm just going to call this gameplay stuff for now. And under gameplay stuff, we'll create a few assets in here. I'm also going to go to my third-person character under my blueprints. I'm going to right-click the third-person character and say duplicate. I'm going to name this the trade skill character. Not that this matters at all, but I just want to do that for clarity on what I'm working on and where I'm putting stuff. Trade skill character. I'll go over here to default pawn class underneath the game mode and world settings, and change this to trade skill character also. And then in the blueprint for trade skill character, I'm also going to go into the mesh. I'm going to flip this over to the ABP Manny animation blueprint. And I'm also going to flip the skeletal mesh asset over to SKM Manny. Compile that. If you look at the viewport, it's just the male version of the character. And one of the things that we can do now is if we go and look at our edit project settings, by default in the newer versions of Unreal Engine, gameplay tags are already enabled. If we look at gameplay tags, there's nothing populated in this list though, and so we need to add some for the purposes of this video. Under gameplay tag table list, you see there's nothing listed here, but if I were to pop this open and say I wanted to pick something, it's looking for a data table, okay? So what we can do is we can create a data table that stores our tag list, and then we can assign the tag list in that dropdown. So I'm going to right click here, and under miscellaneous data table, we can hit a row structure, and we're just going to pull this up and type in gameplay, and it'll pull up a gameplay tag table row as an option. We'll say OK. I'm going to call this gameplay tags. And you can call these whatever you want to. You can have multiples of these. You can have gameplay tag data tables for different types of things. In my case, these are going to be what we always refer to as non-weapon proficiencies. So not your melee combat related type stuff. This is stuff like you want to be a fisherman, you want to be a blacksmith, you want to be a tailor, stuff like that, where your character could use other skills to manufacture things or to make money in the game or whatever it is. And also can create a lot of different little side quests to go and collect different recipes or to learn different skills from different teachers all throughout your world or whatever. So it's kind of a fun system in my mind. It gives you something else to do. But anyway, the gameplay tag table is a very simple structure. It just has a row name and a tag and a comment if you want to put one on there. We're just going to hit add and go down to tag, and these are skills, so I'm going to call them skill dot, and this is how you create your hierarchy. It's just whatever your keyword is, and then whatever the sub key or whatever secondary value you want to put in here. So in my case, it's going to be skill dot, and let's call it blacksmithing. And hit enter. And then I can add another skill, and this will be called skill dot mining. And we'll add one more skill called skill dot smelting. Now, if you ever did any D&D or RPG type stuff with iron ore and all that kind of stuff, or any type of ore, you go out and you mine ore. Ore gets taken back to a forge and smelted into ingots, and then ingots are used to create tools and weapons and armor and things like that. So just a couple of basic things there. Again, the structures of these, I could put these under anything I want to. I could go in here and also add other gameplay tags. And if you're not familiar with these gameplay tags, there's a thing in the game already built when you use the gameplay system called a gameplay tag container. You have a gameplay tag and a gameplay tag container, and then you have a bunch of gameplay functions that you can use to see if a character has a particular tag, and if they do, then you can respond to it accordingly. In my mind, again, these are like on-off switches. Yes or no. Does my character have skill.blacksmithing? If so, then, allow them to open up the forge. Well, that's all well and good, but it doesn't allow you a place to store any value. So it's just a yes, no. Now, we could also use gameplay tags and gameplay tag containers together with these lists in other contexts where, again, I could say, is this person a blacksmith, or is it just general yes, no type stuff? But you could also use it for other things like states. Is my character in a state of being poisoned? Is my character in a state of being hungry? Is my character in a state of being dead? You could do all kinds of things with these tags. Also, with this being a tag table or a gameplay tag table, you could also import data to the table using a CSV. So if you build a spreadsheet external to this, like with something like Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel or whatever, you could rapidly populate all these prefix, suffix values and bring them right in here without having to type all this stuff in here. I can show you that in a future video if we get that far into this. So I'm going to close gameplay tags. Now that I have that, I can go back to edit project settings and go back to gameplay tags, and where my gameplay tag table list is, I can now pick gameplay tags for here. So now I have that available to me. Now, if I have gameplay tags in that list, let's go to my trade skill character. If I were to go into my trade skill character, I could actually go in here and just put a variable on here called skill. And I could go and look at a variable type called gameplay tag. See right here. And if I compile this, I now have a skill under skill that I could drop down and pick from my skill list, like skill.blacksmithing, and compile, and everything's all well and good. Now I have a skill, and I could write stuff to check to see if I have the skill and whatever. But again, no value here. What level of blacksmithing do I have? So instead of doing a gameplay tag, you could also have done a gameplay tag container. Gameplay tag containers, if I compile that, allow me to pick multiple things, which are all in the same list. And then you can check with prefixes. If you go right click out here and type in gameplay, you'll see under gameplay tags, there's a lot of stuff. I can add gameplay tags. I can append the tag containers. I can break it apart to see what's in it. I can find out if it matches something with a query. I can get all actors of class matching the tag query. I can get the name of the tag. I can see if they have all the tags I need. I can see if they have any tag. Like, do you have any tag that's related to skills? So on and so forth. So, I can check all this stuff here using the gameplay tag system. Again, perfectly cool for that type of thing there. If I went back to gameplay tag and I wanted to have multiple gameplay tags but individual setups, I can flip this variable over to an array, compile that, and now I can have an array element where I could go and put in a single, there's blacksmithing only, add plus, and I can go down and get mining only, so now I have individual things, but again, no value, no thing to tell me my quantity of points in this skill. So let's delete this. Let's get rid of skill here. We're going to delete that again. And let's go and do something a little bit different. Let's go and build a structure file. We go back to gameplay stuff. We're going to right click on here and we're going to go to blueprint structure. And we're going to call this skill list. This will be a list of skills, but it'll also have attributes for it. And we're not going to make a list of skills here. We're going to define how the skills get points. So maybe skill list isn't the best name for this, but that's what I'm going to call it. We're going to go into skill list. You can call it whatever you want to. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to say skill name. And my skill name is going to get populated from a skill, not a skill, but from a gameplay tag. There's going to be a single value there. Now I'm going to add another variable called skill points, and I'm going to make this a float. Boom. And you could do, if you wanted to, some things have ranges. You could put, minimum and maximum, or current and next level, or whatever. You could add additional values into the structure that will all be available for you to populate if you choose to do so. I'm going to do super simple just to explain this concept because I don't want to lose you. Like I lost myself the first time I went down this rabbit hole. So now I have a skill list variable. I can go back to, or a structure rather, skill list struct. Now I can go back to my trade skill character, and again, I could create a variable over here called skill. And I could make this, instead of a gameplay tag, I can go into the structure file. And I'm just going to search for it. It's just going to be called skill list. So I'll go skill, and list will pop up. So I can make that an array of skill list values. Now, as an array, I'll have multiple individual skills. When I hit the plus button, though, now you'll see I have 2 members and an index value. Now I can pick a specific skill like blacksmithing and give it a quantity of skill points to store on that particular value. And if I wanted to, I can increment that, or, I could decrement it. I could add new skills to my array here. I can remove skills that I no longer need or have or want. Excuse me. And I can manage all that stuff inside of this skill array or whatever. Well, that's not really the best way to do this. The best way to do this, in my mind, I'm going to get rid of this, is what we really want to do is go out here and create a component to put on a character, or to put on an object or a thing or whatever it is that has skills. It could be anything. I could have a horse that has skills. I could have an NPC that has skills. I could have a companion or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go out here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go build a blueprint class of type actor component. And I'm going to call this the skill system. And in the skill system, what we're going to do is we're going to put the things in there that help us manage adding, removing, updating our skills. So skill system will have a variable in it called skill. And the skill in here is going to be a structure of skill list. And it's going to be an array of skill lists, just like we did on the character. So we have an array here. And now if I go back to my trade skill character, instead of adding a variable to my character, what I want to do is go up here and add a component. So I'm going to say add, and I'm going to call this skill system. Oops, I hit the wrong button there. Skill system will pop up. And now that I have the skill system on my character, you'll see over here that I have skill. And I could go over and, you can make categories for these too if you want to. But if I go over here under my skill, I can say add. Come down here and say I want to add blacksmithing. And I want 10 points of blacksmithing available to my character. and compile that, and we're all good to go. Now, if I wanted to get, find out what skill my character had, one of the things we can do is we just pull the component out. You drag off of here, and you could say, get the skill from this. There's get skill. And I could go back and loop through it and all that kind of stuff. Well, again, I don't want to do this on the character. I want to do this in my skill system by using functions. So in my skill system, I'm going to go in and add a function. And I'm also going to immediately put I'm going to put a return node on here. Add a return node. And what we want to do is we're going to call this function. I want to check to see if I have the skill, and if I do, return to me how many points I have available in it. Now, I'm going to do that with a keyboard stroke in here, but in a game scenario, what you would do is, like, let's say I go to use an object, and I want to check to see, I'm going to say check skill, and I want to use an object, so the first thing I want to do is I want to find out, well, can you even use this thing? Is that something that's even available to you? So if you've never used this before, what you can do is your check skill, you can have inputs and outputs in here. So the input I'm going to have is going to be called skill to check. And we want to make this a gameplay tag. So I'm going to pass in a gameplay tag name to check for. And what I want to return back is, on the output side, I want to return back skill points if they exist. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that into a float like we did on the other side, so we can have incremental numbers, 12.25, whatever. And the way that this is going to work is, in order for this to work, what we want to do is we're going to take our array of skills. We're going to pull this list out and say, get the skill array. And then what we want to do is we want to pull a pin off of here, and we want to say for each. Okay, so arrays have multiple dimensions to them. This is a multi-dimensional array where I have two elements. Each element has two components to it. It has the skill name and the skill points. But when you do a for each loop, you can think of the array as something kind of like a spreadsheet where you have like an A1 and B1. Like you have a row 1, row 2, row 3, and each row has the intersection of an A and a B and a C. Well, instead of A for me is skill and B for me is points. So A1 is blacksmithing and B1 is 10 points, right? A2 for me might be the intersection for mining, and it's also important to note that arrays don't start at 1, they start at 0. So even though the Excel example is A1, in the array would be A0 or whatever. But I'm going to loop through each skill that's in my skill array or that's available to me in the skill list. And for each one that I run across, I'm going to evaluate that to find out if the name of it matches the name of the thing that I'm looking for. So the skill to check, I can pull out of here and just say, get the tag name that was passed in to that variable. Okay. And then what I can do is on my array element, if I pull this out, I can say break it. And it gives me skill name and skill points out of here. Or instead of breaking it out here, I can right click out here on this and say split the struct pin, and it'll give me the skill name and the skill points right there. So that's what I'm going to do because I want that value that's right there inside of this little container. I'm going to pull out the skill name and say get tag name. And I got 2 tag names here. Okay. Now what I can do is I can pull off of this tag name that I'm checking for, the skill to check, pull that out. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to hit the equal sign. Is that tag name equal to this tag name? And when you do an equals is a Boolean operator. It's either true or false. It either is equal or is not equal. So if these two things are equal, this returns true. And if you hover over this, you'll see that. Return value Boolean returns true if A and B are equal. A equals B is true. I'm going to pull off of that. I'm going to type in branch. And branch gives me a flow control, which gives you a true false. It's like a yes, no, if, then, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the execution pin from my loop body out to the branch. And if the two tag names, the one that I'm looking for and the one that I'm currently on, match each other, if that's true, then I want to leave this loop and return out of here with a variable, with a value. And the value I want is the skill point number that's on the current element that matched the one that I was looking for. So let me walk through that again real quick. We're going to check for a skill. I'm going to tell it what skill I want to check for by having a drop-down list of available skills from the array. I'm going to get a copy of the array where I'm storing the skills in the skill list tag types, right? Skill list types. It's going to loop through every skill that's in the skill list and see if the thing that it is looking through there matches a skill that I have on my character that I'm asking for. If the skill is found because the two names match each other, that's going to return a true value and exit this loop, this function, and return to me the skill points that are available for that particular thing. So now that I have the skill system in here, let's go up to trade skill character and let's pull this skill system back out again. And I'm going to pull off of here and I'm going to get that function. Now I don't know maybe what the function names are inside of that skill system thing. I could right click on here and say, edit or find, and go look at it and see what all's in there. But I could also just, go in here and I can look at, if you hook it over here, there's other events that you can fire also. But if I just pull off of this, I can say call. And what it'll do is it'll call the functions that are available on this component. So call function on skill system, check skill. I don't need that there. The check skill function will run against the skill system variable, and the skill to check for, I'm going to manually pick blacksmithing, but that's a variable. Skill to check is a variable that can be populated. Okay, skill to check. So what you could do is you could have an item in your game that when you pick the item up or equip it or whatever, it looks at the tag on the weapon or on the item and says, oh, this is a blacksmithing tool. Let me go find out if this character has any blacksmithing skill. If they have anything that matches blacksmithing for skills, they can go ahead and use this to craft something. Now, in my game, I might do it a little bit different. I might say whether you have the skill or not. If you've attempted something, I'll give you the skill, and I'll give it to you at a very low level. And if you continue to work with it, you'll gain, self-taught knowledge over time. But you're always going to be slightly behind for the most part. Unless you put a lot of work into it, you'll be slightly behind somebody who can just teach it to you. So if you go to a vendor and say, I want to learn blacksmithing, they say, give me 50 gold pieces. Boom, you're a level 1 blacksmith. And I return these skill points out here. So the reason I put this out in here is because I'm going to use a keyboard event to trigger this. And I'm going to say keyboard C because I am checking the skill. And when this comes back out, what I want to do is right click out here and I'm going to say print a string for me. And the string that you're going to print is a combination of strings. The first one is, let's say, string append. And a string append, I can put two strings together. So I'm going to put blacksmithing skill equals space. And what I'm going to do is pull the points in. And whenever you drop a different type onto a string or a text or whatever, it'll automatically convert it. So it's converting this from double precision float over to string values. And then I'm going to return that value out of whatever this text says to my input string for the print string, and I'm going to run this, execute the print string. And what you're going to get there is, when I press C, I'm going to check the blacksmithing skill on the skill system component. If the match is found, I'm going to return back the number of points that person has and append that to a value that says blacksmithing skill equals, and print that string onto the display. If all that works, when I go out here, I should be able to go up into the system and hit the C key. I'm going to hit it a bunch of times so you can see it. It says blacksmithing skill equals 10. Okay. What that means is it found my blacksmithing skill on my trade skill character right here, blacksmithing skill, and found that it was 10. Let's set it to 25. And let's go out here, hit play. And again, I'm going to hit C to check. And you can see it's 25 now because that's been incremented. Okay. So just like that, I don't want to get too much further into this, so I don't want to get everybody wrapped around the axle here. But just like that, we created a project, enabled gameplay tags, made sure they were available, populated a couple of tags using a gameplay tag list, created a structure that would define what different things we could store along with that tag, and then built a real quick function to determine the current skill level of whatever the trade skill character has in that particular thing. Now, for the sake of not confusing everybody and getting this real super muddy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this video right here as the introduction to it, video number 1, where we have a skill on our character, we check to see what the value is and get that number back. Again, that could be used for a lot of checks in comparison. You know, I'm trying to pick a lock. Do I have skill.lock picking that's higher than the difficulty of the lock that I'm trying to pick? You know, in Dungeons and Dragons terms, what would happen would be you'd have a base skill level, and then you would roll your dice to see if your percentage that you gained on the dice plus your current knowledge was high enough to beat whatever the system was that you were trying to work through or whatever, or the lock you're trying to pick or whatever. So, again, I'm going to leave this here. And the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to increment the value that's stored on the container on the component for the character for skill system. So again, my name's TC Mabe with TC Gaming. Hopefully you found some value in this video. Again, people use gameplay tags a lot of different ways. I'm going to be using them in more than one way in the same project because I think they have a lot of value, especially for the different use cases that I'm going to be adding and managing into my systems to make it very similar to ones I've played in the past. So I'm going to leave you with that, and the next video will be coming out pretty soon, probably tomorrow or whatever, and we'll just keep adding on to this from there, and hopefully this is helping somebody out. Please leave a comment just to let me know if this is helping you guys, or if you're finding value in it, or if you hated it even, leave a comment. It sucked, I don't like it. You know, that's fine. I need the feedback to determine whether or not I'm going to continue to put videos out. When I put a video out, it takes me a while to do it. This is the second or third time I've had to record this because of different technical issues and stuff, so I don't want to spend a lot of time if I'm not helping you. There's plenty of talented people out there that you can get your help from. I'm just trying to offer you my spin, my experience with it, the way that I'm using it, and maybe it'll help you as well. I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks again for watching. Feel free to subscribe, like, and share the video, and I'll be with you guys real soon in an update. Take care and have a great night.